Walaikum Assalam wa rahmatullah.
Hazur, first question is from Mr. Bala Muhammad Sanusi. He is a president of Nigerian community in UK. Over 1 million members they have in UK. He is coming from Tooting. Mr. Sanusi, please. Mr. Sanusi?
Yes.
All right. Please.
It's all right. It's all right. Take care. Thank you very much. Which community is this, which you have 1 million members?
That's the Nigerian community in the United Kingdom.
But is there any such organization which comprises 1 million members?
Yes, there is, because the Nigerian National Union, which is really the
Very good.
organization.
Thank you. And you happen to be its president?
Yes.
Thank you. Please.
Hazur, his question is, Your Holiness, you may be aware presently Nigeria is facing negative publicity in the Commonwealth. What do you advise to the people of Nigeria and Muslims in particular?
You see, this question as it has been posed does not convey the correct picture of what's happening. A part of the negative publicity which is referring to is the responsibility of the Nigerians themselves. And a part of it is just thrown upon them by the interested parties. And the situation there as it is developing is not entirely a Nigerian affair. Part of it is being created by the so-called Islamic group who want to implicate Nigeria into such affairs as would render it a non-secular state. There are many complications which are confusing the Nigerian issue. For instance, recently, the Sultan of Sokoto declared that he had already agreed to become a member of Islamic Council during his visit to Pakistan. And he suggested, although he could not take any decision on behalf of the Nigerian government, but he suggested that we will have many monetary gains if we do it. So he appealed to the Nigerian government to become a regular member of this Islamic Council. Now, this negative publicity which Nigeria is earning today is entirely the responsibility of some Nigerian northern chiefs. The problem which has erupted is that the moment he said it, the southern half of Nigeria, which comprises mostly Christians, they erupted like a bombshell. So what does he mean by that? We'll not tolerate it at any cost. This is going to bifurcate Nigeria from north to south or east to west in a plane which will divide the northern parts from the southern parts. So immense problems will be confronted by Nigerians in addition to what he has generally mentioned. This is not the doing of the Western countries. This is the doing of Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, and some similar countries which want to destabilize Nigeria by making it a so-called member of Muslim organization by which the nature and character of Nigeria will change. And they will have a footing in Nigeria in the name of Islam, which will bifurcate all the states in West Africa on the same planes. So far, African countries are avoiding this problem by declaring themselves to be secular. And this secular stance they have inherited from centuries past. I know in every family, almost in every family, there are Christians, there are pagans, there are Muslims, and others of nondescript character. And they live in peace with each other. Why suddenly to fall into the trap of these so-called Muslim countries to make Africa a hodgepodge of religious differences and internal fights? So it will not only create this problem within Muslim versus Christians, it will create problems within the Muslims themselves. So these problems have to be brought to the notice of those who can take corrective measures by your society. And you should protest as a whole, including all the Muslims which are your members. I contacted Nigeria and I was amazed to find that the Muslim chiefs of Nigeria were not at all in agreement with this. They suspected that in this way Sultan of Sokoto would capture their leadership, while they do not want to sever their ties from Nigeria as such. So I hope, as you have asked this question, I'm addressing the right person with some influence who would help Nigeria reduce the problems rather than add to them. Thank you.
Next question is from Mr. Ronald Anderson. He is from Moster Park, Surrey. His question is, Hazur, great emphasis has been made to the approach of the year 2000, as if it is the stepping stone to the great future for mankind as a whole, or a great disaster. Correct me, sir, if I am wrong. Time is man-made. In the universe of which we are part of, there is no past, no future, but only now. How do we reconcile these two factors?
Who is the gentleman who asked this question?
It's Mr. Ronald Anderson, please.
Please. Thank you. Please sit down. I agree with you 100% in your outlook upon the year 2000. Whatever we are doing today will be projected into the next century with the same effects. The year 2000 will not change or will not bring about a reformation in man. So if they are following a disastrous course, this disastrous course would be speeded up as we enter the next century. So there is nothing to celebrate. But I do not agree with you in the sense, in the observation that time is only present. There is no time as present. Either it is past or it is future. Whatever you seem to do in present immediately shifts to the past or leaves effects for the future. So in reality there is no present, past or future. So with that correction, I hope you will accept this as a correction. I accept your views totally. Thank you.
Hazur, Mr. Muhammad Aslam Khan from North London asked, Pakistan court has given capital punishment to a Christian because of blasphemy. Law, does Islam allow it?
It does not. It does not allow this or any stupid thing similar to it. Please.
The next question is from Mr. Sayyid Wasim Ahmad from Birmingham. A Christian bishop has committed suicide in Pakistan in protest to the punishment of blasphemy. Could you please explain your views on the punishment of blasphemy in Islam?
First of all, this Christian bishop should not have committed suicide. He was a very valuable person, not only for the Christian community, but for all the free-thinking Pakistanis. And he should have continued with his campaign to awaken the human conscience in Pakistan. He was ill-advised if he did commit suicide. But it was his own way of bringing to focus a question which was being ignored. And that much it served. This purpose it served to a degree. But now the government of Pakistan is trying to confuse the issue as best as they can by opening up other avenues. The government of Pakistan is now claiming it has to be verified whether he did commit a suicide. He might have been murdered. So they are changing the nature of this act altogether to tell the Western world that it is not a willful act against Pakistan's attitude, but it was somebody else who murdered him and made it look like a protest, while Christians do not protest. It's extremely stupid, like many other things are, but at least this is what they're trying to do. As far as the laws of blasphemy are concerned, I have spoken volumes on this subject, and these discourses should be brought to the notice of the Christian community, because the Muslim community will not listen to them. It is against their interest. As I said, I have delivered lectures, I have answered questions, and the whole material has amounted to volumes practically. Every time I answered this question, I spoke of some new aspect of this. But I believe this should be brought to the notice of Christian community here as well as in Pakistan, that in Islam there is no punishment for blasphemy. It is absolutely false. It's an allegation against Islam. The punishment against blasphemy is Allah's displeasure, and He will take care of it when we will be presented to Him after our death. This is in a nutshell the Quranic attitude. The Quran itself raises many possibilities of blasphemy, which in fact are a part of doctrines of some religion. So this question was raised this morning by a group of intelligentsia from England who came to meet me out of their kindness. There I could not answer it in greater detail, but here I think I should speak on this question and elaborate it further. According to the Holy Quran, Jews commit a blasphemy against Christians when they say that Christ was not a legitimate son. As such, although they're trying their best to back out from this in the present political situation, they do not want to be blamed for having done anything against Christ, but this is a fact, that they do believe that Christ was not a legitimate son because they reject the concept that He was Son of God. And the facts speak for themselves, that if he were a Son of God, then who fathered Him? Or who was the husband of Mary? peace upon them. So this is an involved question which I do not want to raise here in detail, but this much I must tell you, that according to the Holy Quran, they blasphemed against Jesus Christ when they said it. And yet no punishment is even suggested. On the other hand, the Holy Quran blames the Christians of act of blasphemy against God with reference to the same thing. When they claim that it was God who was the father of Mary, the Holy Quran says it's an enormity against God, which the Christians claim. Yet no punishment is suggested. Instead, an excellent human relationship is repeatedly advised by the Holy Quran to be held with Christian friends and brothers, their women. You can marry their women, and you can marry even the women of the Jewish people. So that means a social relationship is established. So the question of blasphemy is raised by the Holy Quran with reference to God and with reference to the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Quran specifically mentions a person by the name of Abdullah bin Ubay bin Sulul, who was chief of the hypocrites, who once openly dared to say vulgar words about Ahmad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he kept no secret about it, whom he meant. The result was that all the companions of the Holy Prophet understood that he was trying to hit at Ahmad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and in an attempt to declare him to be the basest man in Medina. If there is any blasphemy against Rasulullah, this is the greatest of all these blasphemies. The Holy Quran claims him to be the best man in the entire world. Now this chief of the hypocrites openly declares him to be the basest in Medina. Worse than him cannot be imagined. This was so serious, it was so serious that the companions of the Holy Prophet approached him one after the other to seek permission to kill him for this. Rasulullah refused, point blank. He said, no punishment. Then, at last, his own son, who was a dedicated Muslim, approached Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the founder of Islam, and said that I believe that out of my sake you are preventing other Muslims to take their revenge against my father. You know I am a dedicated person. You may have thought, you may have feared that if anyone else murdered him, I might have this as a grudge in my heart against those persons. And this would destroy my faith. So perhaps to save me from destruction, you have taken this measure. But permit me to kill my own father. This was the commotion as created by this act among the people in the heart of his own son. Rasulullah said, nothing doing. You are not permitted to take any action against your father. Later on, when they reached Medina, and within Anzar's life, this man died. Rasulullah, the founder of Islam, decided to lead his janazah prayer, his funeral. And Umar protested very strongly, reminding as he thought Rasulullah needs to be reminded about the revelation he himself had received. He said, "O Prophet of God, is it not correct that Allah had told you that even if you seek forgiveness for this man 70 times, it's an expression of many times, he will not accept your request. And yet you are going to lead his janazah prayer?" Rasulullah said, "Leave my way, get aside. If by seeking pardon for him 70 times does not work, I'll do it more than that." Look at that. This is the Prophet of Islam. Peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. And this is humanity, which is blemished by the so-called followers of Islam. It is they who blaspheme against Rasulullah. If anyone needs to be murdered, they should be murdered. Right? But I don't claim that they should be murdered. I mean, if anyone, according to their logic, needs to be murdered, they should be. Please.
Next question is from Mr. Barry Noon from London.
Yes, please.
And his question is, Hazur, should small arms, firearms be banned throughout the world to avoid incidents like Dam Lane?
If they are banned, it will hurt your economies. That's the problem. You protest against something, against your protest cannot matter at all. Because in the newly developed situation in the world, a large number of traditional arms are becoming a waste, a mere burden. Why not make money out of that? If you have no scruples, you can do that. And this is what they're doing. Neither your government will listen to this, nor Americans or Canadians or anybody else in the West. Because they think it's our money, we must get it back somehow. Why not dump these arms upon the poorer countries, the third world, and suck the last blood of their economy as best as you can? And also, why not let them bleed each other with these weapons? Is that not right? This is exactly the crux of the matter, unfortunately. Please.
Mr. Barry Noon has another question.
Yes, please.
Does a woman's unborn baby has a right to medical treatment regardless of the mother's state of health? Can doctor impose their decision about abortion?
You see, the doctors have no right to impose their decisions regarding abortion unless it's a medical matter which compels them to declare that the life of a woman is threatened by the baby she is carrying. Even then, they cannot impose their decision on such a woman. They have the right to warn her that according to the medical science, the baby you are carrying in your tummy has become a danger to your own life. So abort it. Then if she goes for abortion, it is her decision. But the warning is that of doctors. Did you want some more about it, or this just this? Thank you. Thank you.
Hazur, next question is from Mr. Francis Sheridan of London. The Israel Prime Minister said yesterday, 9th May, on TV that the Jews were the chosen people. How can we help the Western world, that is to say USA and Europeans, to realize the stupid gangsterism of the Israel's against the incumbent Palestinian, plus small percent of Christian in the so-called state of Israel, Palestine.
Part of their claim is absolutely right. They were chosen people of God, and God has gifted them with such potentials and qualities of head and heart which can be rarely exhibited among others. They are commanding the whole world of science, of economy, of all that humans are interested in. So for them to have risen to this power indicates that the claim of the Bible and the claim of the Quran that they were the chosen people of Allah is absolutely right. But they were chosen to do good things, not bad things. That's the only difference. Unfortunately, they're employing this preference over the rest of the world, this superiority, to achieve evil purposes. That is not what God chose them for. And that is why the warning in the Holy Quran is clearly made in many verses. That if you misuse these blessings of Allah to gain your ulterior motives, then remember this, that you will be punished by God, and He will also make you punished at the hands of men. Imagine how clearly this prophecy has been fulfilled repeatedly in history. Many a time they have been severely punished by the Christian world. What happened in the Nazi Germany, I'm not condoning it at all. But I'm pointing out that there was some justification for the reaction which they themselves had created there. It was misemployed, of course. I don't agree with the massacre of the Jews there at all. But I cannot visualize that Jews had made no mistakes there. So this punishment, which is an ongoing process, is witnessed by the history of the Jewish people in their relation to the others. And yet the Sidonians do not seem to have learned their lesson. The consequences, I warn them, will be very grave. The consequences will not be man-made. The consequences they have already witnessed are a process of history unfolding itself. Please.
Hazur, next question is from Miss Rebecca Layton Smythe from Birmingham. Allah created the angels without their own...
Please,
Yes.
yes, thank you.
Allah created the angels without their own free will. However, Iblis made the choice to be rebellious and created disorder. How was it that Iblis made this choice, and what are the origins of evil?
Iblis was not an angel. This misconception should be dispelled once and for all. The Holy Quran clearly declares him to be non-angelic. As such, his rebellion against God, against the word of God, was not a rebellion of an angel against the word of God. Angels are created according to the Quran to follow the will of God without the slightest protest or hesitation. They're made like this, like the laws of nature. Does any law of nature protest against why it is confined to do this? Do ever electrons protest that why they are made to go on circling round and round and round of the protons or the central nucleus? They never do. If they had consciousness, still they would not protest. The difference between these natural phenomena and the angels is that angels have consciousness and they do not have. But the laws which govern them are exactly the same. The choice was created with the creation of man, never before. And when the choice was created, evidently light had its opposite number in shadows or darkness. It was not created separately by Allah. It did not have to be created separately by Allah. So the opposite number of humans who submitted to the will of God is Satan. Like darkness is the opposite number of light. So without understanding this phenomenon, you will always be involved in problems, never to be able to take the blame of satanic doings, to throw the blame of satanic doings upon the Creator, that's God. If you understand what I have said clearly, then God has absolved all such allegations altogether. If somebody stumbles in the dark, darkness is not a direct creation of God. It has to be there because light is created. And whatever obstructs the passage of light, life is responsible for the darkness created. So in a manner, sometimes you cannot throw the responsibility as a conscious act upon something, like the earth revolves around itself and around the sun as well. So the darkness is created by the lack of light reaching somewhere. And if you walk in that darkness without carrying your own lights, you are responsible. So this is in a nutshell the scheme of things. Thank you.
Hazur, next question is from Anne Edwards from Earlsfield.
Yes.
She's sitting there. What do you think of, sir, of the belief in reincarnation? At present, she says, I believe in Buddhist philosophy.
Buddhist philosophy. While believing in Buddhist philosophy, you should not believe in reincarnation. It's contradictory. Because the Buddhist philosophy as understood today does not permit God to play any role in the making of things. And Buddha himself has no power to reappear himself. So reincarnation is imposed on Buddhism by the Hindu philosophy of reincarnation. Better get rid of it or get rid of your Buddhism. Thank you.
Next question is from Mr. Ismail Ankchir. He is from Azerbaijan.
Where is he from Azerbaijan? Mashallah. Ravil, he's with you? Could you emerge into light from darkness? So that we can see your faces well and clearly. Come forward. Yes. Thank you very much. Now the camera has recorded you. Please.
Hazur, his first question is, the biggest oil fields for the 21st century is in the Caspian Sea. Number two is, what may...
Who told him that?
Pardon?
Who told him that? You see, the oil fields all over the world are secretly mapped by superpowers outside Russia. And they are shut and sealed. There are so many oil fields in America which are not used at present for the sake of the future requirements. So this belief that oil field in Caspian Sea is the biggest is wrong. I don't agree with that, because I know so many other oil fields which even occur in Pakistan, which were discovered by teams of American experts and shut and sealed, and they returned home. They knew whenever the need would arise, they would use those oil fields.
But he's actually asking Hazur.
The second question was based on
Actually,
something else?
it is related with that, and
Okay.
he's asking, what may the Caspian oil bring to the Caspian region?
What?
What may the Caspian oil bring to the Caspian region?
Nothing.
In their region, what would it
Except
bring?
mafias. You know, this oil is attracting the world mafia, and they are trying to smuggle it to the West and other countries to their own advantage. So poor Caspian Sea countries will gain nothing but lose so much. Those who will gain will be a few persons who will align themselves with the mafia of other countries. So the poor common people of Caspian Sea countries will gain nothing, unfortunately.
Hazur, next question is from Mr. Abdul Hakim from Birmingham. Mr. Abdul Hakim,
Yes, please.
before, Hazur, the question is, before any synagogue, mosque, church were made, man and woman were man and wife. That is to say, like Adam and Eve. Why then man and woman, why when man and woman come together now, they are not husband and wife without a ceremony?
I don't agree with you. I'm sorry. This is not a true statement of affairs today. They are husband and wives without marrying. And this is bad. This is creating some awful results, consequences for the society. So that is why the laws were made, to avoid these consequences. Right? Thank you.
Hazur, the next question is from Haja Nusrat al Hadis. Haja. Mr. Haja Nusrat al Hadis.
Your wife. Yes.
Oh, I see.
I'm sorry.
From Washington, USA. According to prophecy of the promised Messiah,
She's sitting over there. She could have shared your seat next to you. But anyway, she preferred to go back and sit there, please.
according to the prophecy of the promised Messiah ﷺ, about Lahore, people will say Lahore also was a town. Is it a metaphorical for the world in general, or for Lahore specifically?
I don't think it is metaphoric altogether. The fact is that this prophecy could literally take place in two ways. One way is which we witness today happening. Lahore is spreading eastwards, and the Indian towns of Amritsar and nearer towns are becoming, into an extending township, with their borders joining each other. So, if this process goes on, you can say once it was Lahore, which has become now a township of 100 miles or so. This way, I think you can expect the prophecy to be fulfilled without much damage done to Lahore itself. The other way is that it will be destroyed altogether. I hope it will not be destroyed because I have also my own personal affiliations with Lahore, and almost every Punjabi has those affiliations because it has been the center of education for the whole of the Punjab, of the east and the west, the best center of education. So if it is destroyed, all its past will also be destroyed with it. And it will be destroyed only when the past has already been destroyed. If the education, the torch of education which it held high, is no longer a source of illumination but has become a source of moral and spiritual darkness, only then Lahore would deserve to be destroyed. And if it is destroyed, it indicates an atomic catastrophe. That is, if it happens, God forbid, would convey to the historians later on to write, there used to be a township by the name of Lahore. Right?
Hazur, next question is from her husband, Mr. Noordin Al-Hadis. Hazur, the question is, would Hazur give the Islamic point of view on riba, interest bearing loans, and mention if there should be any realistic expectation that usury as an institution is likely to ever end as a world economic system, since it appears to be so essential.
You are a member of the question association we held this morning. This question was discussed in detail during that session. You will not remember, I know that, but it took us about half an hour to finish this question. So you better have recourse to this audio video together, and your question, I hope, will be you will find your question to be satisfactorily answered. Right? Thank you.
Considering the time, I would make it
Still
a last
time, I think, no?
I have two, three more questions.
Plenty of time. 7:30? Huh? Oh yes, we have 20 minutes to go as yet.
Okay. Mr.
I'll be brief in my answers, like I'm already.
Mr. Francis Sheridan, London. What would you suggest, Hazur? What would you suggest is the best way to prove or nearly prove Jesus is buried in a tomb in Kashmir?
There is no definite way by which we can prove that the man buried under that grave is most certainly Jesus. All that we can claim is that according to the prophecies of Jesus himself, according to the prophecies of the Holy Quran, Jesus should have been found, or his grave should have been found in an area which was dwelt by Israelites. The 10 tribes of Israel must have gone to settle in those areas where Jesus promised he would go. So the route is very clearly defined by Jesus himself, because before the act of crucifixion, he had promised his people that he would go in search of the sheep of the house of Israel. And everyone knows now, I hope, that the 10 tribes of Israel had migrated long before Jesus had come. And he was a prophet to the whole of Israeli people, not just to 2 tribes. So it is very logical for him. This is what is expected, that he should have said to them that he will go in search of the tribes to complete his mission. We believe he was a true prophet of God. And the Christians also agree that he was a true person, if not a prophet. So, being true, he should have fulfilled his promise. If he died while on cross, or still hung on cross, according to the Christian ideology, he must have left straight for God. He had no time nor any capability to become the same old Jesus again and start traveling towards the lost sheep of the house of Israel. So this is one of those strong arguments we present against the so-called divinity of Jesus Christ and his sonship. We believe he was a very honest, straightforward person. What he promised, he had it fulfilled. So the route is fixed, that he must have gone to those areas where Israelis had settled long before him. Now, if you look at the subcontinent of Indo-Pakistan and include also Afghanistan, it's the same landmass, then you will realize that the people of Afghanistan and the people of Kashmir are completely different in their features from those who live around. There is no similarity. Their nomenclature is different. Their style of life is different. The way they are dressed is different. And the extremes to which they go while in Afghanistan are different. They are all reminiscent of old Israel. So if anywhere a grave should be discovered, we believe it should be discovered there. As such, we invite the attention of all the scholars to this point. Now, we do not believe that a prophet's grave should be unearthed, should be dug out. We believe it's an insult, or as you call it, blasphemy against him. But the rest of the world does not agree with us. The Western scholars are free to do whatever they like if Allah permits them. So we are just waiting to pounce upon their discovery. It will be they who will prove it. We only indicate the likelihood of this event. Thank you.
Hazur, the next question is from Mr. Peter Morgan of London. Mr. Peter Morgan of London.
Yes, please.
The number of Ahmadiyas are increasing. Are the new members converts from other sects in Islam or from Christianity? That's one question, Hazur. And number two, in what countries is membership increasing faster?
You see, we are gaining members from all sorts of religious denominations and even non-religious denominations like pagans and atheists, etc., etc. So it's difficult to answer you exactly how many we draw from which section. But largely we draw from non-Muslim communities because of the African spread is mostly among pagans and Christians and non-Muslims in general. Also, we are drawing our share in a large number from some Muslim African countries where they predominate. And naturally, when we convert them, we convert Muslims to Ahmadiyya way of Islam. So this is an ongoing process. But as far as the second part of the question is concerned, where we are most successful, naturally we are more successful in non-European countries because of a psychological disadvantage. that disadvantage is can throw no blame on us. It is natural, it happens so. The rich countries look down upon others as small things, as if observed from a great height. And this psychological awareness of greatness prevents them from accepting a faith coming to them from a people whom they think they are small and insignificant people. This is the major hurdle in our way to spread Islam among the Western countries. Yet despite this, we are becoming more and more successful in the new situation of the world. People themselves are changing in this regard. And the false ideas of greatness and superiority are gradually crumbling. In this new situation, we find intelligentsia in all the free world more and more inclined to listen to us because our message is rational. And rationality has acquired a much greater role among them than before. Having abandoned their religious affiliations, practically having abandoned, they have emerged into an area of atheism which is not prejudicial. That atheism is about the freedom of man and the freedom of conscience and the freedom of rationality. So this is helping us to a very large degree, with the result that, as we noted before, it used to happen that Christians from England, for instance, used to enter Ahmadiyya through one door and walk out through the other after a while. It's no longer happening now. Hundreds of Muslims belonging to Great Britain, who were previously non-Muslims, have come to us and have settled here, along with their families. So this new trend is a most welcome trend, but it will develop slowly and gradually. I would like to hasten this process very much, but unfortunately, there are many difficult social problems and other problems in the way which are responsible for this slow growth. But I hope one day, inshallah, we'll overcome these things. Thank you.
This is the last question. The time is now.
This is from time, mashallah. But normally it so happens that after the last question has been asked, there is a chain of questions which follows the last.
Yes.
Do you suspect this will happen today?
It hasn't, Azur, but...
Let's say, come on.
Okay.
Let's see.
Mr. Rundle Frankwick from Tooting, Azur. Is it true that the founder of your group claimed that I am the Messiah, the King in heaven, I am Muhammad and Ahmad, and also Neh Kalank Avatar, the incarnation of Krishna? Do you accept this?
Now, do you believe in all these prophecies seriously? That they will be realized separately? If Hindus are right in their claim that a Krishna avatar must appear in the same days as we are going through, the same age, and the Christians are right that Jesus Christ of old would descend from heaven in body and give a boost to Christianity. If the Muslims also believe that Jesus Christ would come, but not as a Christian anymore, he is going to launch a surprise to the Christian world according to the Muslim belief. Their runways would be waiting for his landing, and he would land in some Muslim runway situated in Iran or Turkey or Pakistan or elsewhere. I mean, this is in a nutshell the absurdity of all these claims. Every religion, and even within them, every denomination is awaiting something, someone from heavens. Do you really believe that they would all come? No. But the prophecies are so powerful. They mention the events of this world today so clearly that it is impossible for them to have gone wrong altogether. So only correct, acceptable view is that of Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad of Qadian. He said, do not expect all these great religious leaders to appear simultaneously, calling to their several ways of life. Whoever would appear would be entitled spiritually, metaphorically, as a Krishna, as a Christ, as a Mahdi, as any other Lord like Lord Buddha or Zoroaster or whatever name you give them. He claimed that he has come to represent all the promised ones who were to appear in the latter days. Because he argued that whoever comes from God brings the same message. He never contradicts other prophets of Allah. So he said, if you study these religions which we consider to be different from each other, he pointed out that they are not different in fundamentals if you search their sources. At the sources, all religions are alike. They were made to appear different by the generations which followed much later. And that is why you see a sort of parallax between these religions. It can only be corrected if you correct your vision, the angle of your vision. You said, look at this situation as a phenomenon which is governed by universe, God of the whole universe. He could not have contradicted himself. He could not have permitted people coming in his name to contradict his message. So, in this sense, he claimed to be a Krishna, a Mahdi, a Buddha, and all that. People misunderstood him altogether, mostly willfully. Because if the so-called mullahs had read his books, the message should have been very clear to them. Because he explained these things in a manner that nobody should have misunderstood him. But these people who want to agitate their followers against Ahmadiyyat and against Hazrat Mirza Sahib, they willfully distort his message and tell the whole world, look here, he's a madman. Sometimes he calls himself Christian, sometimes he calls himself a Hindu, sometimes a Buddhist, and so on and so forth, by claiming to be a Buddha, etc., etc. It is not so at all. He claimed to be from God. And as such, he was indivisible. The message of God is always indivisible. Thank you. Now there are only 2 minutes left. Time is over. And no more questions.
You did 17 questions.
Eh?
You did 17 questions.
There are more. They have come.
He said you did 17 questions today.
All together. What I mean to say is, are there no more questions pouring in like they happened last time?
One only came,
All right, because there is time, I'll answer that one question. Please.
No, that has been answered. The one which poured.
I've already answered?
Yes, it came from the...
Thank you. I take leave of you then. And now you can't stop me. I must go. Thank you.